Shalom. All praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And shalom to the hopeful elect Akim that are teaching this word. Shalom, Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Rakah Kodash. Now, as you can see here, this is the word emancipate. Emancipation, which pretty much, I'll just go into the root word of it because, I was watching the movie review. I was basically watching the movie review of the movie Emancipation with Will Smith, and it shows you, some real horrors in that movie, follows the story of the Jake. I believe that picture was like called a roadmap because of all the horrific whippings that Jake went through. It's a famous picture and it's his like story basically, and he's on this horror plantation. The movie is basically, made me think because it's called Emancipation, but we know that what that means because Will Smith was fighting to go to meet up with Lincoln's armies, because so-called Lincoln supposedly freed the slaves, but they didn't. They emancipated us, which they took us out of so-called the hard bondage of the South and made us basically, pretty much like corporate slaves like we have today. Basically, they changed the model of slavery. Basically, they moved it from the hard bondage to what we have pretty much. Fast forward to what we have today, basically, they made us like corporate slaves, basically, over time. But so that's what they say. Lincoln freed the slaves, but no, he emancipated, which means they transferred us from one style of slavery onto another, man. All right. And fast forward to today, what are we in today? We're just basically emancipated slaves, so-called Negroes, Latinos, Native Americans. We're in a big plantation today, man. These jobs you work in, we're paper slaves today. They have us birth certificates. All these things is a form of our captivity, all right? But at one point we were in hard bondage, but so-called Lincoln, so-called emancipated us, which was all a big game of the elites anyway. I said Lincoln. So let me read some of this here, and I've got some scriptures. Because you Edomites got a lot to pay for, man, all right? We're not free, man. You haven't freed us. The only one that can free us is Yahweh Shai, man. And all the wickedness you see in that movie Emancipation, the wickedness that was going on, man, all right? And all the horrors and he's one Jake of millions, all right, that suffered that fate, man, all right? So I'm gonna read this here. This is from 1620s. Set free from control, from Latin emancipatus, past particle of emancipare, put a son out of paternal authority, declare someone free, give up one's authority over. In Roman law, the freeing of a son or wife from the legal authority, the point I wanted to get is more further down, of the pater families to make his or her own way in the world. Yeah, they freed us, right? From assimilate to make our own way. They gave us freedom from captivity, right? To make our own way in the world, to make your own way in the world, from a simulated form of X out, away, mancipare, deliver, transfer or sell. All right, the mancipum, ownership from manus hand, and that So basically, what did they do? They transferred us, man. Basically, that's the point. To deliver, transfer or sell. To transfer or sell. So they transferred us from one style of captivity to another. All right. So they transferred us from a hard bondage in the South to pretty much, working, so-called, working in factories and things of that nature in the North, all right? But we were still in captivity. And you have to remember when so-called slavery ended, remember Jake was still on plantations, Jake was still getting lynched. So there was never any real freedom. Right up until this day, we are basically... we're basically still in the captivity because we were transferred. So we're not free. They gave you the illusion that we were free from hard bondage, but we're still under bondage. But the majority of our people, their eyes are not open to see these things. We're still in bondage because we were transferred from one form of slavery onto another, man. From hardcore bondage into so-called factories and workplaces, but we were still in captivity. All right. So let me read this here. Because that's what the devil does. That's what Esau will say today. We freed the slaves. No, you didn't, man. You emancipated. You transferred us from one form of captivity onto another. All right. So this is Psalms, because we're still in your hand. Psalms 58:3. The wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. And that's what they do. These devils. Who's the wicked? The so-called white man. All right. And it says they go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. All right. And that's what they do. They speak lies, all right? But all of them, from their politicians to their newborn babies, man. They're liars. You watch Joe Biden on TV, he's a liar. Abraham Lincoln, he was a liar. All these politicians, they're liars, man. Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. We're going to emancipate them. No, you transferred Jake from one form of captivity to another, man, for your own gain. So you lied, man. There was no freedom. The wicked are estranged from the womb, which is a so-called white man, the Edomite race, man, the Edomites. They're estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the deaf adder that stoppeth her ear, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. Yeah, because that's their spirit. If you talk the truth to a so-called white man, they stop their ear. Their ear don't want to hear truth. All right? They're about lies, man. They're not a truthful people. So that's when we've had that. We've seen Edomites over the years. We might bring the scriptures out to them about captivity, and it goes through one ear unto another. They don't give a F about that. They're liars, man. In a lot of these now, but now the spew of their kingdom is being spewed up on them, like their wickedness or their kingdom. You know? But for years they've just covered it up, forget about captivity. No, we freed you. It's just swept under the rug constantly. And then that was the spirit of the time. But now the Lord's revealing it all and throwing it in their face. They can't even get away from it anymore. But they're still liars, man. That's just their nature. All right. So it says, which will not hearken to the. So they ain't about truth. They're deaf adders, man. All right. So a lot of these devils for years, even over, a lot of these devils for years, they even had that in their mind. We freed the slaves. You can't talk about that anymore. They'd even push that. We freed you, But now the Spirit of the Lord's bringing all that venom and that evil that they've done, throwing it back in their face. They can't hide anymore, man. All right. So it says, which will not hearken to the voice of charmers, charming never so wisely. Break their teeth, O Lord, in their mouth. Break out the teeth of the young lions, O Lord. Let them melt away as waters which run continually. When he bendeth his bow to shoot his arrows, let them be cut in pieces, because the Lord's getting ready to judge the so-called white man, the wicked. They're getting ready to be brought out of power. And guess what? They're going to be in captivity under us. All right? And they're gonna build up our world. When the Lord destroys this kingdom, just like you see in the movie Emancipation, they brought him onto that. They brought the Jake, the character Will Smith was playing, which was a real life, right? They brought him to a plantation, which was like one of the worst plantations you could be on. It was hell. It was like building railroads. It was just hell. And they were setting them dogs on them. You see the horrific shit that was going on. Basically, you go there to pretty much die. They were shooting them at will. The taskmasters that were there, they were just killing Jakes when they wanted. You just saw them pushing hundreds of Jakes into graves. So you think all that evil you've done, you really think that you're not going to be recompensed? You're going to be paid back, man. You're going to be paid back. The Lord's getting ready to judge you, man. So I'm going to read this here. This is Ecclesiasticus. I'm talking to them Edomites, man. All the evil that they've done, right? Nothing ain't going to happen to them. Come on, man. This is Ecclesiasticus 12:16. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. Yeah, Lincoln freed the slaves. We emancipated you. Yeah, but in their heart they imagine how to throw thee into a pit, because they led us from one doom to another doom. From one hell to another. All right? To fast forward into the society we're in today, we're debt slaves. We're under all their paperwork. We have to continuously pay rents. We have to work to pay. It's not as bad as when we was in hardcore bondage. The Lord's lessened the burden upon us. The Lord's slowly lifting the curses off of us. But we're still in hell, basically. So he speaketh sweetly. We freed you from that hard bondage. You don't worry about that anymore. Lincoln's army have come to save you. An enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips. This is talking about the so-called white man, and our people don't see it till this day, that the so-called white man's our enemy, man. The Edomites. They still don't want to accept that. For the most part, our people don't want to accept it. There are Jakes waking up and seeing a lot of things, but for the most part, our people don't want to accept it. All right, they still want to live under his authority. They don't understand the full scope of what's going on. So an enemy speaketh sweetly with his lips, but in his heart he imagineth how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. Yeah, we freed you. Come on. Come stay with us. Basically, we freed you. Like them devils in the north, they will talk in America. The devils in the north, they would act like they're better than the devils in the south, basically. When all of America's racist and oppressive, man. In fact, a lot of Jakes were up in the east and the north, they were being lynched and murdered, man, in America, prior to the so-called freeing of the slaves, in all over America. So, because the South has got like a stigma of slavery. So the crackers in the South, they got more of that stigma than crackers elsewhere. But you're all the same people, man. You've all destroyed and murdered our people, man, all over America. All right. So he says, how he imagined how to throw thee into a pit. He will weep with his eyes, but if he find opportunity, he will not be satisfied with blood. Meaning when he gets the time is right. Esau always murders our people. He always destroys Negroes and Hispanics and Native American people, man, as much as possible. All right, because they can never be satisfied, man. So this is Baruch. I'm gonna read this here. This is Baruch 3 verse 8. Baruch 3 and 8. It says, behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments, according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power. Exactly, we are yet this day in our captivity. That's what our people don't understand. All right? They think because they're not on plantations. Well, we are on plantations. If you open your eyes, you'll see we are. We're just in a plantation of these cities now, these businesses, these corporations you have to work for. That's a plantation. But our people, Jake, for the most part, think just because they can get up and go to work, that they're not in slavery. They're not in because they're not in that hard bondage that we once were. But you're still in captivity. The scriptures say it. Behold, we are yet this day in our captivity, where thou hast scattered us for a reproach and a curse, and to be subject to payments, according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power. Yeah, because we understand that the reason why we suffered all these things is because our forefathers committed sin, basically. So we had to suffer for it in this time. All that was going on in captivity, in slavery, the emancipation movie, all that stuff that we see, the real life situations that were going on, happened because our forefathers committed sin. So we had to pay a punishment, man. That's why it says, according to all the iniquities of our fathers, which departed from the Lord our power. And that's why the Lord judged us the way he did, by bringing these perils upon us and having Esau, have his way with us, basically. All right. It was a punishment. But guess what? That punishment's getting ready to be lifted. And all that happened unto us is getting ready to go unto them. All right. And ain't going to be no emancipation for Edomites, man, and the other nations, but particularly Esau. You're just going to be in straight hard bondage, building up the kingdom of heaven, man, until your time to be destroyed as a race is up, man. All right. So this is Deuteronomy 30 and 7. It says, and the Lord thy power will put all these curses upon thine enemies, and on them that hate thee, which persecuted thee. All right. And what's the curses? Read Deuteronomy 28 and 64, man. He's going to put you in bondage. We're going to put you in ships, cart you around the planet, just like you did to us. We're going to put you on, basically you're going to be on plantations for the rest of your life when we get in the kingdom, man. You're going to build up our kingdom. You're going to build up our walls, all right? That's the curses that's going to come on the so-called white man in particular, but all the other nations really. But in particular, the so-called white man. That's why the Lord's always making, Hollywood, these Hollywood directors keep making these slavery movies, man. Now in 2023, they're making movies like that. Emancipation, Django a few years back, 12 Years Slave. They keep making these movies in Hollywood because why? It's the Lord putting the spirit on them to keep revealing themselves, man. They can't get away from it. So that's what's getting ready to come upon them. So with that, I'm going to say all praises unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Rachak Wadash, Double honors unto the apostles and the elders of Great Millstone. And shalom to the hopeful elect Akim that are teaching this word. Shalom Yahweh, Ba'ashem Yahweh Shai, Ba'ashem Rakah Kodash. Shalom, shalom.